Greetings, traveler. I would like to welcome you to another episode of Amen Haas. I only did my last one a week ago, but, if you remember, I kind of missed the last one by a week, so, we're still on schedule, folks. This is the right schedule. A schedule that won't be lasting too much longer, because I'll be going home for the summer in a few weeks, and, I like to let you know that I'm not going to be doing these videos back at home, because I'll be busy with, I'm trying to find internships over the summer, or maybe I'll do, summer classes if I can't do that. I'll have a lot of stuff going on. I'll have religious retreats, too. But I will be spending all that time focusing on prayer and just, better connecting myself to God. So when I come back next year, once I'm back at school, it'll be in a different dorm. But once I'm back, folks, we're going to be better than ever. You're going to love it. Seriously, you're going to love it. Happy Easter, I guess. That's the big thing, right? Why I wanted to do this. A big Easter special. But, what's so special about this? It seems like it's just a regular episode of Amen Haas. Well, you might have noticed, if you're one of the very few people who have successfully binge-watched the 5 episodes I had before, well, they've been more about just how to be Christian and not why, or just, things Christians do, I told you all about my testimony, why I'm a Christian. I told you how to read your Bible, told you what Lent is, told you, I told you, should you fear God or love God? Things like that. But, that's all, well and good for the people watching this who are Christian. But the whole point of this is more to get people to better follow God. And that's not just for Christians who may be lukewarm. They don't want to, they're just, not into it, but they need to recommit. I'm talking also about the atheists and other non-Christians, I'm not going to spend as much time on them, though, right? I'm not going to dismantle their religion, their false gods in 5 minutes. Maybe I will. I don't know, probably not. I'm more focused on people just don't believe in God. Because, for the people who do, but they don't believe in Christianity, in general, it's probably a lot easier to convince them. If they already believe there's a God, that's a big barrier between being an atheist and being a Christian. So, part of this is just, telling you the story of Easter and a few minute details that may make you reconsider if, Jesus was just this, religious fanatic who wasn't anything special, or he might have been the Son of God. So, let's just see. So you probably know the story of, how it came to be, right? Maybe you've seen The Passion of Christ. I haven't, but they say it's a good film. Maybe you've seen, I don't know, I'm watching The Chosen. I don't know if they've crucified him yet in that show, because I'm not that far ahead. And if it is, please don't tell me, alright? I know it's technically not a spoiler, because I know Jesus dies. This is based on real events, but I don't know. I want to see it. I want it to catch me by surprise, I actually remember, in fact, I'm watching it with my mom, and she actually got a call from one of her friends, hey, let's go watch this, the newest season of The Chosen in theaters. And she's I don't want to be spoiled. I don't want a spoiler, and me neither. So don't do that, alright? I don't care how good the new one is in theaters. I don't care how poor it is to see it on the big screen. I'll do that when I can. I'll do it when me and my mother have caught up. So, yeah. Until then, don't. But, for those of you who've seen it, you probably know it, right? Jesus comes into Jerusalem, right? And, he gets anointed. And you got these Pharisees who are this guy's a blasphemer because of Judaism, According to them, still, the Messiah has not come. The Messiah is, it's going to be someone else far off. But, for a lot of these followers, they're this is it. This is the guy. I know it's only been, 3,000 years or so, but I guess he's already here. So, yeah, and they're following him. So the Pharisees are mad. They're we got to get rid of this guy. So, they go to the Romans. They're hey, can you kill this guy? And I'm and the Romans are originally the Romans, like, they had their own vendetta against Jesus, but, also, but, like, given that it was also popular to not like Jesus, amongst the Jews, especially the Pharisees themselves, a type of Jew, not, like, all of them, because there were a lot of Jews who also liked Jesus, many of them became Christians, now they're like, well, if all these people don't like Jesus, maybe we can win popularity or stop a riot, and kill them, So, that's exactly what they do, Judas sells them out for the 30 pieces of silver. Peter denies him 3 times so he could get out of it, but he feels horrible and works to make amends for the rest of his life. And, they catch Jesus, and they offer a choice. Either they'll save him or save this guy called Barabbas. And they say, Barabbas be spared. Jesus, let's put him on the cross. So they whip him, put a crown of thorns on him, and give him this big wooden cross to carry all the way to where he's going to be crucified. They stack up the cross, nail in his hands, or his wrist is where the nails go in, and, they just put him up there and let him bleed out to death, because crucifixions are really gruesome. They're one of the most gruesome forms of capital punishment I've ever seen. Like, you're literally nailed to a cross and made to just bleed out until you die of either loss of blood or, like, an infection or something. And you'd probably be better off just losing blood. I mean, infections are just nasty. So he's up there. They even put this little sign on saying, Jesus, King of the Jews, to mock him. And, Jesus, like, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Because really they don't, Like the Pharisees, they thought this dude was just a false prophet, And I mean, to be fair, a lot of them didn't see the miracles. I'm sure if they did, they probably would have agreed like the other people, And for the Romans, well, I don't know. They're just trying to quell a riot. I mean, I'm obviously not going to be defending the killing of Jesus Christ, but, like, that does provide some context, And I mean, at the end of the day, Jesus just is forgiving. That's the whole thing. Like, it's a big element of Christianity in general, forgiving people, So, he dies, and they wrap him up, put him in a tomb, roll in the boulder, and then he's dead. And then he's gone. So, that's it. Jesus died, That's the end of Christianity. Jesus really was a false prophet. He was nothing. He wasn't anything. 3 days later pass. And, they roll back open the tomb to see what's in there. A lady goes in, and guess what? It's empty. So, yeah. Eventually, then they see Jesus walking around, and not like a zombie or anything, but like just as he was before he was crucified. It's like it never even happened, and that's like, and they're like, huh? Everyone is shocked. That's why he has to keep saying, don't be afraid. They're like, but you died. You died. Okay, and so they're dead. So, like, he died, and now he came back to life 3 days later on Easter Sunday. Like, it actually depends on what the Easter is, actually, for different denominations. Like I said in my last video, the Orthodox and the Western Christians, like Catholics and Protestants, they have different views. But yeah, he rose on Easter. He's walking around, and even performs more acts, more miracles. Like, that's what the book of Acts is. Acts, A-C-T-S, not A-X-E. Like, sorry, they sound a lot similar, right? Acts. It describes, a lot of it is dedicated to Jesus' final moments, walking around alive before he ascends into heaven. So, like, that's just the gist of it. I know I oversimplified it like heck, but that's not even really the whole thing. I'm not just going to tell you... I didn't just want to tell you the story, but I also want to tell you this. Okay? This kind of proves why Jesus... Well, he was the Son of God, or at least something was up with the guy, because, it's this sort of reasoning. I think I mentioned this in my testimony. It wasn't just faith, but reason that brought me back to the church. Similarly, like C.S. Lewis, the author of Mere Christianity, he too came back through reason, and he used reason in his books to convince people to be Christian. Not just, you gotta believe, man. Although you do, faith is part of it. You have to have faith. But reason, I think, is something you shouldn't, that, some church leaders want to shove aside. Like, don't think about it. Don't ask questions. Just be Christian. But that's not something you should actually do. I mean, like, people make this whole big thing about, you dare question God. I mean, it's like you shouldn't. You should trust God's plan. But it's like, it's only natural to not believe this at face value, right? A dude dies after performing magical miracles, and suddenly he's just back alive. He's the son of God, a God that created the world in 6 days, which, depending on who you ask, is 6 literal days. He flooded the world, and there's no geological evidence for that, they say, and, all this stuff. It's like, when you say it like that, it does kind of sound a little ridiculous, but when you actually think about it, especially the rising of Christ, it's not as ridiculous as you'd think. Because let's think about this for a second, all right? So Jesus died on the cross. Now, we know he actually died. Some theorize he didn't actually die, and he just left the tomb all bloodied and bruised, or someone helped him out after. Well, first of all, that tomb was guarded, like, day in and day out, but, like, I don't think it was guarded, like, at night, but, like, it was well guarded, so it would be pretty hard to just break in, at least without someone noticing. And on top of that, like, Jesus died, alright? They actually had someone check him to make sure he was dead, and they'd be punished severely if it turned out he was still alive. Like, I mean, come on, even if he didn't die, bleeding out that much, do you really think all those folks, all his followers and disciples, really had the medicine to cure that sort of thing? Even in today's society, if you had nails driven through your wrists and above your ankles, and you were left to bleed out and get infections, you would have to go to a pretty good hospital to get that fixed up. Especially after like 3 days, because the 2 days before it was, he was still in the tomb, so he had to wait 3 days, bleed out for 3 days, and he somehow survived. Like, that's ridiculous. So we know he died, all right? He was dead as a doornail. So, okay, so he came back, Well, first there's the whole thing. A lot of people like to say, well, what if he moved the body? That's it. They just moved the body. They just, and then a woman comes, saw the empty tomb, and it's like, well, Jesus must be alive again. Like, well, first of all, like, these people testify not only that the body was gone, but that they actually saw this guy walking around. There's countless testimonies of this, and whether or not the body was stolen or moved, like, the Romans didn't want people to believe in Jesus, so they probably would have just shown the body, or went looking for the body, and probably would have found it. Like, they would have scoured far and wide, and they probably would have got it, and then they would have shown the body and be like, nope, he's dead, that was all a lie. Okay, and, so then there's the thing that, that people are just crazy. This is where we get into the trilemma as, 3 issues, right? Trilemma. That C.S. Lewis comes up. It's actually like a parody take on the people who talk about, is God good or bad? I talked a little about that in my last video. Maybe I'll go into depth more of it in another one. But, yeah. It actually was parodied in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which Lewis also wrote. Yeah, that's right. He wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, if you forget. Yeah. So this guy was not only a great Christian, he was a great author, too. And, yeah, so his idea was, either Jesus is either the people who said Jesus came back or Jesus performed miracles, either they were liars, they were crazy, or they were telling the truth. Like, that's because when anyone says anything, makes any claim, only one of those 3 things can happen, right? So let's go into the first one, lying. Well, again, most testimonies of Jesus, like, if you put them in court, like, you could probably, they probably connect well. Like, like, one guy will say this about Jesus, and, another guy will say this, and it'll work together, Like, all the Gospels, like, from a, testimonial standpoint, they all say the same thing, Like, only minor alterations, as one would have just in general, from everyone seeing everything differently, right? But, not only, like, is it not likely that they were liars, I mean, we know for certain that his followers were not liars because they died to prove all this stuff. Like, if they knew this was a lie, they would either not do this or they would do it for grifting. But again, they made no money. They died for this. And painful deaths. One of them was even tied to like a horse and dragged all the way throughout town until he was broken into pieces. Like, I don't think it's drawing and quartering, or maybe it was, like, because drawing and quartering is where you drag someone by horse, but then you chop them up into 4 pieces. It's barbaric, but that's what, I don't even know if that would happen back then, or that's more of a medieval thing, but that was the thing. So obviously, dying for this stuff, it's not something a grifter would do. Like, think about any actual grifter out there. If someone put a gun to their head and told them to, say that they were making this up, they would say that, And it was kind of like what happened with a lot of them, They didn't put guns to their head because guns didn't exist yet, but, they were threatened with death, threatened with persecution, but they stood firm. Like, you can only do that if you really believe something is true. So they believe Jesus rose from the dead. I mean, but of course that goes to the other thing. They were crazy. Yeah, they hallucinated Jesus because they totally showed signs of mental illness throughout the Bible, right? Like, they didn't. Historians have looked back at all the apostles, all the followers of Jesus, and they haven't found any evidence of mental illness, Nothing that would imply that they were, like, seeing things, or that they used drugs to see things, like, because, I don't know, like, if they had, like, magic mushrooms in ancient Rome or anything. I don't know about that, but that's also unlikely. I mean, to be fair, you can't prove that they weren't, so that might still be a valid argument against it, but I really don't think that's likely. It's more likely that they weren't crazy. And Jesus, we can't factor out, though, Jesus also died for this, Like, he had every chance to get away, or just to admit, oh, I'm not a real priest and whatnot. Like, I'm not the Son of God. But he didn't, And, like, with the miracles, too, the testimonies, are very similar, Like, there's no difference in them that would, imply that they're making it up, right? Nothing like that at all. So, it's unlikely that they were crazy or lying, And there's even a crowd of 500 people who all saw him at once. And their testimonies, again, pretty much all the same, which is especially untrue if you're hallucinating, right? 500 people, and they all just happen to see the exact same hallucination. Like, that's impossible. And it's also possible, even if they're lying, to have such a tightly woven narrative, to just all say the exact same thing. Like, there'd be a lot of more flaws, And I've tried to cross-examine them, they're not here, but, try to expose holes. I've yet to find any, I just couldn't find it, It just doesn't make sense. I mean, sure, it doesn't make sense that he came back from the dead, but, how could he... What other explanation is there? The body was gone. No, they looked far and wide for it. They only found Jesus as a living person. He was dead. And the people who defend them, they had to go through great persecution. And yet they all did this for him. And none of them were crazy. There is no evidence to show that they are mentally ill. Like, you want proof? Show me proof that they were mentally ill, okay? Or something like that. Like, show me proof that they were, like, schizophrenic, or they were hallucinating, or they were on drugs, or something like that. Like, I'm not making fun of mental illness. Like, that. Sorry if that sounds a little, lowbrow the way I talk, but it's like, it's part of my point, though, because that is, like, a legitimate reason why, it might seem like someone might believe that someone is there, but, they're not. But that wasn't the case. It really isn't the case, So Jesus did come back from the dead. Now, how can you explain that? How can science explain a person coming back from the dead? It just doesn't make sense. All right? But there really is no other explanation. And that's why. Now, I know some of you will probably disagree. Probably think of some other reason why, like, I don't know. What could be another reason? Maybe he could, maybe they got, like, a clone. Like, I remember the Quran, Muslims believe that Allah, as they call God, he switched Jesus out with a body double, but, like, I don't know, man. Like, from what I've seen, like, even the earliest depictions of Jesus that are the most realistic, he stands out. Like, I don't think it would have been easy to just get a body double of him. And again, if they stole the body, people will have gone looking for it. Or maybe they burned the body is the real reason, right? But, like, I guess those theories don't really matter as much, because even if the body is gone, what really matters is that Jesus was seen walking around. The testimonies, so many testimonies. And again, this is, of course, all based on history from long ago, so maybe there's some inaccuracies. And if those were to come to light, maybe it would debunk it. But, again, it seems like we already have a good grasp on that part of history, and, a good way at making sure that every testimony was done at this date, at this time, and whatnot. Yeah, so Jesus rose from the tomb. And if Jesus rose from the tomb, it can mean only one thing. That he had help from something supernatural. And why would this supernatural thing be so inclined to raise this guy who claims to be God from the dead? Why is this happening to him? Why is he performing miracles when you don't see this with anything else? All these other superstitious things are just that. They're just superstition. Why is that? It just doesn't add up. The only reason I could think is if this supernatural thing was made to bring Jesus back. As far as I know, the only explanation I've heard is that it's God, God bring Jesus back. And only one religion has ever really said that, yeah, God bring Jesus back from the dead. And that religion is Christianity. So yes, I do truly believe Jesus is the Son of God. And there is a God, and that God created the world, it created us, and we will go to heaven when we die. If we're good, we will go to heaven. That all exists. It's true. I cannot do this to any other religion. I cannot use reason to come to this conclusion so easily. I usually find other holes or just a lack of reason to really truly believe. But this feels like a court case. It feels like a court case. Your Honor, my client really did rise from the dead. And then you see all this testimonies, all this evidence. I cross-examine it and I find nothing. And on top of that, if there is no God, how the heck did the universe even happen? I just want to ask that. Give me an answer. How did it just happen? Why are things just existing. How like you say nothing comes from nothing. Well, then why is there a universe? There has to have been a start, a catalyst. Not the Big Bang, since that came from like a small little speck of energy and whatnot. Like, I mean, there was nothing, and then things existed. What's this all about? Wish I knew. But, as far as my reason has dictated me, even compared to atheism, which has its own holes and flaws when you think about it, I have come to Christianity. And if you still think I'm talking out my butt and I don't know what I'm talking about, I would implore you to give a read to Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Read stuff by him. He is my personal favorite apologist in Christianity. Like, even compared to, like, clergymen, he gives the best arguments. Because they're not just based on blind faith, they're based on reason. And it's that reason that brought me back to Jesus. That gave me real faith. Faith in what I know is true. I can believe it because it makes sense. Because I've come to believe that when studying the facts. So I would just implore you to do the same. And if you still don't believe it, okay, fine. Well, fine. Okay, fine. Don't believe in God. All right? I mean, just consider it. Really consider it. Don't just, like, take the Bible at face value. Or everything literally. Or, like, don't just, get, like, a half-baked version of Jesus' life. I mean, you got to study it. You need to really think about this. And do that. That is all I implore you to do. Okay, from there, fine. I'll stop, alright? Like, I'll move on to someone else who believes, okay? But I'm really hoping you do this. Because if you come to believe in Jesus, if you have that true faith, it is going to be so good for you. You're going to be happy to know that there's a heaven, that you could go there after you die, that it's not just going to be nothing, that there's going to be just a giant void for you to be in for all eternity. You are on the cusp of so much you don't know. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little ranty here, but I guess it's just because I feel strongly about it. Because I believe, I'm not saying that's the reason why. Like, I mean, sure, I actually believe it, but, I could be wrong, and maybe I am. But I do know this. It just doesn't make sense that Jesus didn't come back. I know it sounds crazy, but it doesn't. For the reasons I explain, the reasons C.S. Lewis could give you that I didn't, and all sorts of reasons apologists have come up with. They're not all crazy. They're not all just, you gotta believe, guy. These are real reasons. You need to listen to us. You need to actually give us a listen. Give us a fair shot. I'm not saying, like, don't question us, don't question me, don't challenge me. I want to be challenged. I want you, if I'm saying something wrong ever in any of my videos, you need to tell me so I can fix it, so I can retract my course. Because I want to know what's right here. I want to do the right thing. I want to be the best Christian apologist I can be. Not just for my sake, but for the sake of God. Because he would be very proud of me for what I'm doing. He probably is. And I'm glad. Alright? I'm glad I'm doing this. I do it for God. You probably know this, right? Because I'm not making any money. I'm not trying to get views. I'd be a lot more flashier if I was. But I just want you to know this. So think about it. Do the research. And, still don't believe me, that's fine. That's cool. But I hope you come to the right conclusion. So thank you all so much for watching. Happy Easter, everybody. Love y'all. Ian Haas.